everybody. I'm Brandon Moore. This is Coaching for Profit, another episode, and we are so blessed to have Mike Cavaggioni. I said it perfectly off camera, but now I screw it up. So, Mike, you'll have to say your name for everybody so that they can get it. Make sure I don't.
No, you got it. You got
I did.
it.
Cavaggioni.
Right, yep.
Good deal. He's originally from Long Island, New York. He's living in Hawaii right now, living the dream. Almost retired from the Navy. Got a few more days, few more months.
Yeah. So I'm technically on my terminal leave right now, but my actual retirement date is in December. So
awesome. He started working as a realtor there. He's invested in real estate in Oregon, Virginia, Texas, and Hawaii. He is the host of one of the number 1% rated podcast, the Average Joe Finances podcast. It's internationally ranked. He started that podcast to share with his guests on how to become financially independent, to beat debt, to invest, and just to help people on their journey. Mike, it's really great to have you on.
Hey, Brandon, thank you so much for inviting me on your show.
You know, this is a new podcast we just started. I'm, as a CPA, financial advisor, real estate investor with kids who are adults. You can tell that by the gray hair, I'm sure, and my beard. I really wanted something that's going to speak to business owners, entrepreneurs, but also to really push people towards financial independence. Coaching for Profit, the name kind of pushes people in that entrepreneurial vein, which I love. I love the idea of people starting businesses and then using that cash flow from those businesses to invest in real estate or other alternative investments. Tell me about what's going on, what you see going on in the country with young people and how they see financial independence and why they're listening to your podcast.
Yeah, Brandon, that's great. If you follow a lot of the social media trends, there's a lot of flashy things that kind of grab your attention. But I think some of the things that grabs most people's attention is, hey, you can build your wealth. You can, do this and get out of your 9-to-5, get out of the rat race and this and that. Sometimes it's like a little far-fetched, but sometimes you're going to find a creator that's actually putting out really good content and they're putting out actionable things that you can do to start building your wealth, right? And, we're at a time right now where we went through this, pandemic over the last 2 years where we have found that, you don't need to have the standard in the office 9-to-5 job to make things work. We see a lot of people saying, hey, I'm working from home now and we were able to work things out. And now as things are easing up and people are going back to work, a lot of companies, even some of the bigger ones like Google and Amazon, are allowing people to stay working from home because they're finding that more work is getting done. People are more productive. There's a better work-life balance in doing it this way. But also at the same time, it's about retention. They don't want to lose some of those employees because a lot of other folks that are being told to return to the office are deciding to leave their jobs. And they're doing that because they're finding other side hustles or side businesses that they can do to not only replace or not only make a side hustle or like a side income, but completely replace their 9-to-5 income. So you're seeing a lot of people coming up now as freelancers. You see a lot of people that got, there was already a large real estate investing population and following, but you've seen that explode over the last 2 years now with more people getting interested in flipping homes or wholesaling and just different ways to kind of make a quick buck, because that's the way you would make a quote unquote quick buck in real estate. But for the most part, people that invest in real estate for the long term, those are the ones that are focused on building their wealth and building that generational wealth. But right now, what you're seeing is a lot of people doing the quick hits and the quick fixes because this is what I want to do to kind of replace my income. And you've also seen an explosion in short-term rentals.
Yes.
That has been one of the biggest market growths that we've seen in the real estate side, because that is probably the best way to create a job replacement income, right? Because you'll usually when you buy a short-term rental, you're going to cash flow enough to cover all your expenses and probably replace your job, depending on, where you're working and how much income you're trying to get. One or two or three short-term rentals might actually get you covered and completely cover your annual salary or income that you're used to. So that's what we're starting to see a lot of. There's a lot of there's been a change, I would say, in the standard American culture when it comes to family, when it comes to having that quality of life. So you have a lot of younger people that are either deciding, A, they don't want kids, right? Because they just want to go out and enjoy life. Or you have the other side where people do want kids and they want to spend that quality family time with their family, right? And this is, one of the many options that they have. I described many of them, but this is just some of the things that we're starting to see now because, maybe you could say that the pandemic was a blessing in disguise. I don't know. But I think it's really helped a lot of people get perspective and change their way of thinking when it comes to that typical 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, and as a person that, and I describe this in my book, The Entrepreneur's Journey, the Hero's Journey, Your Guide to the Entrepreneur's Quest. That I've been laid off or fired 4 times, and so when the decision came, do I go and become an employee again, or and take that Russian roulette one more time, or do I become an entrepreneur? It was an easy decision for me to become an entrepreneur, and I think that you're right. The pandemic really opened people's eyes to just how fragile being an employee is, and taking those side hustles to be their full time hustle, opened the door to all kinds of investment and just new ideas on how to do things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even for me, like I started investing in real estate probably at my 17 and a half year mark in the Navy, right? And I had just come out here to Hawaii and I knew, I got to finish up this tour and that'll put me at 19 years. So I was like, well, I know I'm going to retire, right? I'm going to do at least 20. If I would have started investing in real estate younger, during my time in the Navy, I probably wouldn't have made it to 20 years because it's just something that, I found myself getting drawn further away from wanting to do my typical 9 to 5 in the Navy versus, having the passion for what I'm doing right now on the outside. And that's in real estate and helping other people with investing or with with finding properties as a real estate agent or even as an investor like I do right now with my own in multifamily properties. I absolutely enjoy it so much. And it's not so much about the making money. I mean, that's nice. Making money is nice, but it's about that freedom that I have that I can do what I want as long as I'm putting food on the table and taking care of my family. And doing something that I genuinely enjoy. Now, I enjoyed my time in the Navy. I absolutely loved the Navy. I wouldn't have stayed for 20 years if I didn't enjoy my time in the Navy.
Right.
However, it was one of those, it gets to the point where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. I like to change things up. And that's one of the beneficial things that I've had about the Navy is, I always went to a new job pretty much every 3 years, but it was still the same kind of monotonous tasks and same things that I was seeing at my previous job, right?
Okay.
Where now, I get to choose what I want to do. If it's something that I don't feel is satisfying or I don't get any type of self gratification out of it, or it's something I just don't enjoy, well, I'm not going to do it because I don't have to. I've built up enough passive income now where I don't have to chase money. I don't have to chase a job. So I think it's more of that freedom aspect. And I think that's what a lot of younger people are after nowadays. Because you see a lot of people that are younger and younger and younger going out and trying to do these, just being entrepreneurs and starting their own businesses or investing in real estate or investing in crypto or the stock market. Now, crypto was a big hit, right? There was a big craze for that. And now a lot of that is not going so well.
Right.
But it's still, it got people thinking outside of the box. And I think that was one of the beneficial things with the crypto market as well. So at least to the younger generation, it was appealing. It was something different.
Right, and just like any investment, it's going to have its highs and lows until it levels out more as more people understand it and more people use it. I'm not a big fan of crypto as a financial advisor. I can't tell people, I can't recommend it because it's just way outside of volatility range that I'm comfortable recommending to clients. But when I talk to people about investing in their financial life, a lot of advisors focus on retirement, and I really hate that. Not to diss any financial advisors or the retirement planning; it's necessary. But I like to talk about wealth management and wealth planning and creating that legacy, not just about my current needs and what retirement is really self-focused. It's self. I don't want to be derogatory and say self-centered, but honestly, it's thinking about what I need for my life for the remainder of my life. Whereas legacy planning and wealth planning, that's thinking of others. That's thinking of the next generation. The next generation, my kids, my adult kids, I've got a kid that's it's still in elementary, and then I've got a 19-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 24-year-old. So there's a big gap in between the third. But my adult kids, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do in life, and just like you talked about, it's important to me that they focus on what matters. I think that's a quote from Chad Carson, another real estate podcaster. But just focus on what's important to them. And I think real estate does that. Real estate allows you to have that cash flow to meet your needs. And then your job is what you want. It's what you want to do, not something that you have to do. What do you think about our current education system and how most college or not college, but high school students and where they're being pointed today? And what do you think about that? I mean, you went to the Navy, which is not where people, most high school counselors don't point people to the military.
Yeah, that's a great question, Brandon. For me, I think our education system, especially when it comes to financial literacy, is extremely flawed. You'll take one economics class in high school, maybe, if that. It's an elective for one, and for two, it doesn't even cover that much. I mean, they talk about you'll maybe learn about the economy of other countries and maybe a little bit about the economy here in the States, but you don't learn. Excuse me, I had to cough there. But you don't learn like basic economic principles. You don't learn basic financial literacy. They don't teach you how to write a check. They don't teach you how to pay bills. They don't teach you, credit cards or compound interest or anything like that. They don't teach you how the compound interest on credit cards can work against you. They don't teach you how compound interest in investing can build your wealth, right? And you come out of high school thinking, okay, I'm going to either go to college or I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to start saving money. And what am I going to do with that money? Well, nobody's taught me anything different. So, they have this thing called a savings account. That must be for saving money. So I'm going to put my money in this savings account. And the entire time that you're quote unquote saving that money, you're actually just losing that money. Because I mean, look at the last inflation report we got at 9.1%, right? You're sitting here, you have your money in a savings account that's getting like 0.25%. You're losing 9% a year. Yeah. The value of your dollars, right? Where if you were to invest that, even something as simple as ETFs or index funds that are, averaging between 9 and 11% returns, right? At least you are now hedging against that inflation, right? And that is the biggest thing is you got to find ways. We got to teach the youth how to hedge against inflation and build their wealth instead of just trying to save and stay out of debt. I mean, yes, staying out of debt is a big part of that, but you can't make that D word sound so scary. Perfect example, Dave Ramsey and what he teaches absolutely fantastic principles. And they're great principles for somebody that's getting out of debt, but they're also great principles for somebody that wants to stay broke. Okay. Because you're going to, yeah, sure, you'll stay out of debt, but you're never going to make money. You're never going to employ your dollars to work for you. You're always going to be working for dollars, right? Until you get to the point when you retire, and you might not even have enough to do that. So, don't be scared of the D word, the big debt word, right?
Right.
Use it to your advantage. Use debt arbitrage. There's so many different things you can do. I use debt as a way to build more wealth. I have a HELOC on my primary residence, and I use that money from the HELOC to invest in other real estate assets. And then I take the money that those assets are paying me and I pay down the HELOC with it. It's arbitrage. It's arbitrage of the debt. I don't want to pay down my house early. Like, I'm going to pay it down a bit. I'm going to chunk it down with my mortgage, but I'm not going to completely pay it off. I just want to increase that line of credit that I have to increase my liquidity, right? So I can go out, and when a good deal pops up, I could just be like, boom, I've got the cash, or I've got the down payment, or whatever it is that I need. That's my goal. That's my focus with what I'm doing right now with Velocity Banking. I'm not sure, we don't have to go into all that, but it's just one of the things that I do personally to leverage my debt, right? And I think that's the piece, that's the missing link that we have when it comes to financial literacy and financial education for our youth. And it's one of the reasons why I started my podcast as well.
Yeah.
I do have a younger audience. When I look at my demographics, I do also have, people my age, like my peers, and some people a little bit older. But at the same time, my focus is to make sure that I'm getting this information out there so people learn and they could apply these principles in their own life. So I'm not giving financial advice. I'm providing an educational tool for people to use for their own benefit. And, take it as you will. But, yes, long story short, our financial education system is broken when it comes to schools, 100%.
Yeah. And even there, I mean, they go the next step further and tell people you have to go to college to have a good job. And so, to me, that encourages debt because most of them can't afford it. And so they get the student loan, which is why we have this student loan crisis, because you have all these degrees that are not marketable. Somebody might get a communication degree, which they used to say, hey, that's the great degree where you can do anything. And of course, when everybody's doing that, then the market is flooded with communication degrees. And then they said, no, you need to have an IT degree. Well, then the market becomes flooded with IT degrees. And so, it is a system that I think takes the thought process, what can I do really well? How can I be financially independent? And if what I can do really well will pay the bills, how can I invest the excess for my future and for my family? And that's the thing that's not getting talked about.
So how we have required reading in school, everybody's, when you've gone through high school, everybody's read To Kill a Mockingbird, there's all those books that we all have to read, right? You know what books should become mandatory reading in high school?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I was going to say The Richest Man in Babylon, just to get the basic principles of, I keep 10% of 10% of everything I earn, I keep for myself. 1/10 of everything I earn, I keep for myself. And honestly, that's not even enough. But the thing is, that gives you that basic principle, like, oh, I do need to take some of this money and keep it for myself because, certainly the tax man's going to come take their portion as well. Yeah. Right. So if you're not taking something to invest in something, don't worry, the US government will take some from you and invest it for you into stuff that you're not even going to use.
Right.
So
you're talking about Dave Ramsey and his, I always believe, just like you, that debt's a tool. And the reason Dave is the way he is because he was investing in real estate, 80% loan to value constantly. The market dipped a bit. He lost his lunch, right? And so he went through bankruptcy, and that affects a person. And if you look at most of the people that are following Dave, those are people who have debt problems. Those are the ones who do not know how to use the tools properly. And so
that was me when I first started.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was in a bad spot, and I had $28,000 in credit card debt, and I had multiple personal loans, and we had to figure out a way to beat that. So I started following Dave Ramsey's baby steps, and I did that and got out of debt, and it was great. And then I said, well, now I got to do something different because I do want to go buy a home, but I'm not going to save up all this cash to go buy a home, especially when I knew I was moving to Hawaii and the average household price out here is $1 million. I was like, well, that'll never happen. Right. But, I look at, so, you gave a great example, like with what happened to Dave Ramsey back in the 80s, he was taking these loans out. They were 90-day loans, right? That he was always getting extended and extended and extended. Well, guess what? The market shifted and the lenders started saying, we're not going to let you take the extension on anymore. Your loan is due. It is, you need to pay. And that's how he wound up going bankrupt. Now, we don't have those kind of lending practices anymore, right? So I think people need to look at this practically, okay, from that type of perspective. Right. What happened to him back then, what happened in 2008, that is not the stuff that can happen right now. This is one part where the federal government actually did something right, and they came in there and made these regulations for some of these for mortgages, right? So when you get a federal backed mortgage, you've got this protection, right? You've got this this backing. Now, if you go out and take out a loan that you can't afford yourself and you can't pay it, that's on you, right? But you don't have lenders just willy-nilly saying, "Oh, you said you make this much? Cool, right. I believe you. Here's
no
your
more
check."
No documents. Everything is
right.
going to be verified.
You need to prove what your income is. You need to prove your debt to income ratio. They're actually going to look at your credit score.
Right.
Okay. So all that stuff. I mean, I went through this when I bought my first property. I don't know if you saw, I'm not sure if I sent that to you, but back in 2007, I bought my first home. So 2007, just think about that date for a second. Okay. What happened the very next year?
Right.
Boom. I had to short sell that home. And, it wasn't that it was a home I couldn't afford, but the value of the property dropped 60%, right? Something like that. I mean, about that. I don't know. It was 250,000 I paid for it, and I sold it for 157. It was painful.
Yes.
So yeah, it's the things like that there's protections against that now. I don't see the economy getting to the point where we're going to completely tank the real estate market. Yeah, you'll probably see dips and stuff in certain markets, but I don't see another 2008 coming.
Yeah, and each individual is responsible for how they use debt, and that's the thing. Is it can be. It's so easy to get credit cards. It's so easy to get these lines of credit, but you've got to have standards. You've got to have some. Just because the bank says that you can afford something doesn't mean that you should buy in that range. You got to look at what you really can afford, and setting up budgets and having that fiscal discipline is necessary. For young people, I know budgeting and discipline is like curse words, but
I was just going to say, they hate that B word too. and that other D word, discipline. Yeah. Besides debt, the other D word that people hate is discipline.
Yeah. And then the thing is that, and I say it in my book, is that discipline brings freedom. It doesn't bring bondage. It's like when I was in college and I had every minute of every day was scheduled, and it was on purpose, because when I did it that way, that means when I was with my kids and my family, I could be totally with them. I wasn't worried about my homework. I wasn't worried about my. By the way, I had 2 kids when I was in college. I don't recommend that, but that's what I did. That discipline of that time management discipline gave me freedom. It allowed me to sleep at night because I knew that I had a lot of times for the things that were important, and kept to that, so that I had that freedom and that peace when I went to sleep at night and when I was with my family. Debt the use of debt, it is a tool, just like any tool. It can be used to harm you, or it can be used to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you said too about, the younger generation not liking that B word, right? Budget. I tend to focus, like when I'm working with, because I also do financial coaching, right? And when I'm working with somebody that's a little bit younger, I don't tell them like, let's make a budget. I say, let's make a spending plan, right? I kind of change it up a bit, because it just sounds more
friendly.
It sounds more friendly, but it sounds like less disciplinary, right? Less like, oh, I'll need less discipline for this because it's my spending plan. It's not a budget. It's my spending plan. So yeah, I tend to try to play on words when it comes to certain things like that, because it's the discipline piece is a mental thing. It's a mental roadblock that people put in there. And I think, what I try to focus on is changing people's relationship with their money and how they treat their money, right?
Yeah.
Because if you treat it like, oh, like this is a budget and I have to have this fiscal responsibility, you're like, oh man, after a while, you're just like, I'm getting burnt out. I'm tired of this.
It's too much
Where I
equipping.
focus, where I focus more on the spending plan and then celebrate when you have a win. Yeah, go splurge a little bit and go out to dinner and enjoy yourself and celebrate that you paid off this credit card or that you were able to save up to invest in this product, right? Go celebrate those small wins, because that's one of the things that's going to keep you motivated to keep going,
Yeah, I used to give a talk at our college every other year or so. They would invite me to speak on budgeting, and we talk about the D word, and I told them, I said, well, anytime you build a budget, if you don't put those victories in there, if you don't have those rewards in place, it's just going to make it that much harder to complete. If you save this amount of money, yeah, go spend $50 to celebrate that. Go to a nice restaurant, whatever. At that time, it was $50 to go to a nice restaurant. Now it's probably double that. But that reward process, and what works for me is the self-imposed scarcity method, where we take money out of our accounts and hide them in other accounts. To where when I see the checking account, or I see my overall accounts, it causes me to pull back. I pull back my spending. It's a natural phenomenon that you do that. And then when you see a surplus in there, you tend to, I can splurge, I can afford it, right? And so for me, I think one of the things that will help in a budget is where you take it to where, and I made it really tough on myself. I had it drafted from my accounts to a bank that I don't use, that I don't have a checking account with, that in order to make a withdrawal, I had to actually go there, drive there, and withdraw the money. They wanted to give me a debit card, but I said, no, I want it to hurt. I wanted to think about it on the way there. I wanted to think about it when I was writing out with the withdrawal slip, and I wanted to think about it as I was handing it and talking to somebody, because I wanted those savings to be savings and not.
That was 3 chances to change your mind right there.
That's right. That's right. I built that into my budgeting system.
No, that's great. So I did. So we, my wife and I, before we started doing velocity banking, we were doing sinking funds where, as soon as we got paid, we would take that paycheck and just split it into multiple accounts. We had 7 different accounts, like a pet vet account, the car maintenance and gas account, the home expenses account, and then the bills account, and then of course our investments as well. And the first thing we would do is when we got paid was we would immediately invest the portion that we wanted to invest. Then we would split the money into the other accounts. And then if there was any debts, we would pay those debts. And then whatever was left over in that checking account, that is what we had, if we wanted to go out or whatever. But all those other accounts had to get paid first. Right. So, and that's what we were doing, and it worked. But now my house is essentially my banking account, is my checking account. And I just take all of my pay, everything that I'm making, and I dump it into my HELOC. And then I, whatever we need to spend or whatever bills we got to pay, we just pay for it out of the HELOC and just keep chunking it down.
Yeah, whatever works for you. I mean, that's a relatively simple system, and I think that the more simple the system that people use, the more likely they're going to actually take it on and focus. Aside from our young people not having education in high school, what about colleges? I mean, what are they doing to teach financial literacy? I mean, do they even have any? Do they feel like that there's any responsibility on their part? I don't see it. I don't see, even in accounting and business classes, I don't see any personal finance requirements. And I I was an accounting major, and so I never saw. I did take a personal finance class. I don't know how helpful it was. It was more like if I would advise somebody else or something, but it wasn't really. It had nothing to do with financial independence or building wealth.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of another aspect of, if you want to learn about finances in college, you have to major in finances in college, right? But even then, it's not about your personal finances. It's about learning, basic economics and helping other people with their finances, right? But when it comes to like the basic things that we should understand as adults, there really isn't anything that covers that. And honestly, there should be some type of 101 course, no matter what, as soon as you're a freshman in college, that it's part of the indoctrination process when you go to college, that, the first couple, or the orientation, right?
Yeah,
There should be something during the orientation where they say, okay, this is your tuition. This is how much it's going to cost. And if you pay for it with a loan, this is how much it's going to cost over the next 20 years. If you pay for it in cash, this is how much it'll cost now, right? Just something that's going to show them either the detriment of taking out the loan for it or paying
yeah,
for it up front. Or they say, hey, if you were to pay for your college and then take whatever's left over and put that in this account, this is how much you can have, in the next 20 years. But then, I think they would probably scare a lot of people off, because they'd be like, oh my goodness,
right.
why am I wasting this money on these courses that I don't think underwater basket weaving is going to really get me anything when I graduate. So, it's one of those things that's a give or take,
Well,
and
we know that it's not there. So
well, a lot of those
what
schools are
could
in it to make the money,
right?
right? They don't care if their students learn how to pay
So
properly.
what should young people do right now to get this financial education that they need? What are some things that they can do right now?
They should listen to podcasts like yours and mine, for one. But honestly, you have to go out and find and seek the information, because it's not going to be handed to you. I would say even, maybe go to a local real estate meetup and see what some of those folks are doing. If there's a local business association in your area, go to one of their meetings and see what some of the entrepreneurs there are talking about and how they've built their wealth. You'll see a lot of those folks just graduated high school, didn't even go to college, right? For me, I never even finished my degree. I have like 170 something credits. I never finished a degree. I could take 3 particular classes in almost any topic and get a degree in that topic pretty much. I mean, that's how many classes I've taken. But that was one of the advantages I've had while being in the Navy, is I never had to finish a degree, but I was able to go to college a lot and have it paid
Right,
for. I actually did hit a point where they said, yeah, we're not going to pay for your school anymore because you have too many credits. You should have had a bachelor's degree, like 20 classes ago.
right.
So sorry, but I kind of Van Wilded it, because I
Yeah,
could. But you have to go out there and seek this knowledge. Again, no one's going to just randomly walk up to you and say, let me teach you the ways of financial independence. It's
yeah,
You're not going to find a monk on the street that's going to walk up to you and enlighten you. You
yeah,
have to go out there and seek that enlightenment yourself. And one of the ways you could do that is go to the library and get some of these books if you have to. A lot of these books are in the library. Go seek out a mentor or a coach. I, as a real estate agent, I have a coach because I feel like it's important that I have somebody that holds me accountable and teaches me the things that I need to know that I might not know about the job that I'm doing now, right?
yeah.
But when it came to financial literacy, I took classes, I read books, I absorbed a lot of content online. There's so many sources, YouTube
So
videos,
much out there.
podcasts. I mean, when I was commuting to work, the only thing I would listen to in my car was a podcast. And it was either about investing or something business or financially independence related.
Yeah.
So I tell people, become a content sponge. Just consume, 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 learn. Um, it's actually one of the things that I have. I have these 4 pillars to building wealth, right? And the first one is education.
Yeah.
The second one is mentorship and coaching, right? Find somebody that's going to hold you accountable. The third one is networking and building relationships. They say if you hang out with 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th one, right?
Right.
Surround yourself with the people that you want to be like, okay? And then the 4th one is take action, because those first 3 will mean nothing if you
Yeah.
don't actually take action on it.
Yeah. In my book on the real estate investing, I have a story about talking to my my first mentor, who is the Indiana Jones of mission work for our church, and Pastor Darrell. He was also a real estate agent and investor. And after about 2 or 3 years of asking questions, he turned to me and said, "Brandon, at one point you're going to have to pull the trigger. you can't you can't just
Yeah.
this paralysis of analysis that was happening with me, because I was getting the information, but I wasn't doing anything with it. And he did eventually help me buy my first couple of properties, and went to over 100 at one point, and just been going and blowing ever since. I've actually eased back on my real estate purchasing, focusing on my entrepreneur heart and the couple of businesses that I'm running, and I really have enjoyed that as well. But um, you know, you're saying something about the networking as being one of the key pillars. Tell me about how important networking is for an entrepreneur, for a real estate investor, for a young person wanting to grow.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Brandon. Networking, at least to me, is probably the most important one because when you go out and you put yourself out there and you meet other people, you find out the things that they're doing. You find out the things that maybe you shouldn't do, right? Because you learn from other people's mistakes. So you can go to real estate meetups, you can go to conferences, right? Just get out there and talk to people, ask them questions, say, "Hey, I'm brand new. I want to get started. What are some things that that you've done over your career investing in real estate or investing in the stock market or whatever type of conference you're at, right? Whatever flavor you enjoy the most, right? Stick with what you're going to enjoy, right? But talk to the people that are in that same boat that have been doing this for a while and kind of find out what worked for them and what didn't work for them. And then at the same time, find somebody that's newer, that's maybe been doing it for 1 or 2 years, and find out what they've been doing. Because the person that you're talking to that started investing in real estate 20 years ago, things were way different 20 years ago than the way they are today. There was different loan programs, there was different methods of lending, there was different ways to get private money, right? Versus what we have today. People weren't talking about real estate syndications 20 years ago. Wasn't really a thing that people really knew too much about. Now it's all over the place, right? So if that's something you want to get involved in, talk to somebody that's, there are some seasoned people out there that have been doing it for 8, 9, 10 years, but then there's also people that started maybe 1 or 2 years ago. Talk to them, see how they got started, right? Because you want to understand what some of these current programs are. Again, that kind of goes back to the education piece, right?
Right.
So you can kind of mix the two of those together. You can learn from those people in your network. And I know it's kind of a cliche saying, it's very cheesy, but everybody says it because it's true. But your network is your net worth, right? But it's more than just networking. And this is the important part that I think young people need to understand too. When you go out to these meetups and these conferences, it's not just about, "Oh, well, I know so and so, and I'm getting to know these people and blah, blah, blah." But you want to build relationships. And that's why I say networking/relationships, because the relationship piece, you want to start having these friendships. You don't want to just go out there and have like this, I know so many people, I have so many people in my network because I talked to them at this conference. Well, just because you talk to somebody doesn't mean you know them, you know? Follow up with people. You meet
Right.
people at a conference, follow up with them, a month later. Say, "Hey, how you doing? How have things been going since the last time we talked? What are you working on? Any kind of projects?" That makes them remember you,
Yeah.
right? And you start having these conversations and they'll say, "Hey, well, what are you working on?" "Oh, well, I'm not, I've been looking, I haven't found anything." "Well, hey, I got a deal coming up. You want to partner up?" Right? So there's little things like that you'll find when you build a relationship that's a little bit different than just going out and just doing your typical networking thing, right? So
Yeah.
get out there and build relationships.
Yeah, I think the partnerships opportunities with networking. I think a lot more people are open to that. When my wife and I started, we really felt like we were on our own. We had a couple of mentors and a realtor that was for us, but as far as other people in the community, we just didn't know anybody, and certainly didn't didn't have the resources to get any other partnerships. But today, there's just no excuse. You have Facebook, you've got bigger pockets, you've got these conferences like Limitless and Rubicon, and what was the one that was coming up? FinCon.
Oh, you got BPCon coming up too. You got FinCon coming up next month. And I mean, that's where we met at Rubicon.
Yeah.
We kept in touch, and we're still talking, and here we are doing a podcast interview together. And it's little things like this. I still have your notebook. I don't have it here on my desk, but actually, the last conference I went to, I still had my little BKM notebook that I pulled out, because I was like, oh, here's the stuff I had from Rubicon. And then I was like, okay, I'm at the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference. So I made a new section, and I was continuing to use that notebook as I was taking notes there.
You run out, we got more.
Nice. But that's huge, right? That's one of the great things about going to these conferences and these meetups. As a matter of fact, I'm starting my first in-person meetup for Average Joe Finances out here in Hawaii starting next month. And I just posted about it yesterday, and I've already got 11 people signed up. So I'm really excited about that. And I think it's helpful, because you get to meet and understand what people are doing, but you also build these relationships. So
yeah, I was at a conference just this last weekend in California. It was a financial services conference with my broker dealer. It was of all the top producers of our broker dealer. And, I'd met a couple of them before, but I'd really got to hanging out with 4 or 5 of them. And after the conference is over, I was like, you know what? I don't want that to stop. I emailed them and I said, hey, how about we get together on Zoom, in September, the first week of September, and we start doing this every month. And they're like, I'm in, I'll do it. It's like, these are the top guys and girls of our women, of our financial services industry. And they're in Minnesota, in Chicago, in California. I'm going to get some really good information from them, and they're going to receive from me. And it's going to be so good. I can't wait. And if I had been my
it's like a mini mastermind.
If I had been my normal introverted self, that wouldn't have happened. I had to go beyond myself to make it happen.
Brandon, I was going to ask you if you were an introvert, because when you were talking about when you first started, like that's originally what I was thinking. I was like, I think he might be an introvert, and when you first started and how you felt like you were kind of alone in that. And, the thing is, the beautiful thing about networking is that you can still do this as an introvert. So there's a lot of people that are introverts that have this limiting belief that, oh, I can't go out there and talk to people and this and that. Listen, I don't care if you're an introvert, an extrovert, or whatever. If this is something you're passionate about and it's something that you enjoy, you will enjoy talking about it with other people. It might feel a little forced at first, but, some of the biggest names in real estate. I mean, look at Brandon Turner as an example from when he was at Bigger Pockets. He talked about it all the time, how he was such an introvert.
Yeah.
He does not like going out and meeting and talking to people, but he found that, with his passion in real estate investing and going out and being able to, talk to other people that have the same views and same passion as him, that other stuff kind of goes out the window, and it makes it a little bit easier to have those conversations. So, and I tell people all the time too, like if you're an introvert, it's okay. Go to one of these meetups, even if you're just sitting there in the corner, somebody will approach you and start having a conversation with you. It's going to be hard to ignore, right? So, just do it. Get out there and meet people.
What I do for myself is I make goals. I'm a goal person, and so anytime I go to a conference, I say I'm gonna meet 5 people. I'm gonna talk to 5 people, and sometimes it's really hard because I like to listen more than I like to speak, and which doing this podcast makes it really tough. But these kinds of the conferences where I'm actually going and talking to people that are passionate about the same things that I'm passionate about, it's easier to get into conversations with them. And I think with young people and other people listening to the podcast, if you are passionate about this area, you're going to find like-minded people that you can have conversations with. Even if you start the conversation with an email, that at least begins the conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a face-to-face or anything like that. It could be email, it could be text messages. You could hop on a Zoom call. I mean, this is one of the beautiful things that we have right now with technology. I mean, I was interviewing somebody the other day and they were on the East Coast and they even said that too. They were like, if we didn't have what we have today, we have such an advantage that we have to take it.
Oh yeah.
We have these opportunities that we have to take advantage of because, you know, he even said, he's like, you and I probably would have never had a conversation ever because I'm in New Jersey and you're in Hawaii, right? So when you look at that, it's amazing because now we have these platforms where I have a podcast where I'm able to reach out to so many people and get so many people to actually hear not only me but the people that I bring on the show sharing what they're doing, right? You have the same thing. You have that impact where you're putting out this content that so many people get to listen to. And and they're all over. They're all over the United States.
Right now,
even in other countries.
Right now, there's tens of people listening to my podcast,
and that's okay. Think about 10 people in a room. Right?
I know.
If my podcast started that way too. I remember like my first 6 months of podcasting, I was getting maybe 20 to 40 downloads per episode, and I'm like, man, nobody's listening to my show. And then I sat and I thought about it for a second. I was like, well, 20 to 40 people in a room is a full classroom. Right. I started changing my perspective on how I was thinking about it. And then I started outsourcing some things and getting better at my social media marketing and everything. And next thing you know, boom, I'm at 12,000 downloads a month right now.
That's
so
fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
But the thing is,
that's awesome.
Thank you. But it's the fact of, I didn't give up on it and I kept pushing and I kept going. And that's one of the things.
I think the content's worth it. I think the content.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you build it, they will come.
I hope so. Well, Mike, it's been great talking to you, and we look forward to the next time we see each other in person. We've already signed up for the RubeCon next year. I plan to go to the BPCon. I'm not sure I'll make it to the FinCon, but we didn't sign up early enough to get an exhibitor table. So
yeah,
that's all right.
FinCon, I was originally planning to go, but that is out now because my in-laws are in town and they are here, and pretty much until then, I'm still on the fence of whether or not I can go to BPCon or not. Things are kind of weird because I'm not really supposed to travel off island while I'm doing this skill bridge program.
Yeah.
So I might not be able to make that, but I am going to RubeCon again next year. I'm going to be speaking again. And I'm really looking forward to that. Had a good conversation with Dustin. I mean, I thought for a first conference last year, I thought it was amazing. The turnout was great. The people that were there were very engaged. I absolutely enjoyed myself. And I got to meet awesome people like you, which gives this opportunity for us to have this conversation. So it's, man, get out there and go to these conferences and meet people. That's right. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yes. Well, that's this episode, man. It's if you didn't get something out of that, you must not be breathing. Check your nostrils on a mirror or something. But this is Coaching for Profit, where we believe that profit is your potential minus your barriers. Again, thanks for being here, Mike. Love having you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brandon, for bringing me on your show.